I started surfing around 4.5 years ago, and in this video, I just want to take you on a little journey with me on all the lessons that I've learned being out there in the ocean, getting smashed by waves, surfing the most beautiful wave walls ever, and realizing a lot of things about life, the universe, and myself in those hours in the water. My name is June Fuchs. I'm a certified life coach and I work with vegans, activists, and changemakers around the world. And today, that's going to be quite a personal video, actually. Well, every video is quite personal, but it's not about the coaching today. It's more about what I've learned through being coached by nature and the ocean. So I started surfing in 2018, I believe, if I remember right. And I actually started surfing in river waves in Switzerland. So Switzerland has a couple of cities with waves in the river, which means there is either a bridge or like a water regulator element and a stone element in the water that builds a standing wave in the water. And it's quite scary and sketchy because the stones are there. You can hit your knees, and I did that a lot. That's where I started surfing. Yet the surfing in the ocean compared to that is really what conquered my heart and my soul. And so today I want to talk to you about a little bit how the ocean works, what lessons I've learned from the ocean, and how we can apply that into our everyday life. Because there's a lot of wisdom in how the ocean and how nature works and what surfing can be reflected onto in our daily lives. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about, which I find is one of the most beautiful things, is how waves are created. A lot of people don't know that. Waves are created far out in the ocean, either by storms or underwater eruptions or earthquakes underwater. So there's movement and there's energy hitting the water, either through the movement underneath the water surface or a storm that hits the water surface. And so that energy lands in the water and it starts traveling. It starts traveling into different directions. And that energy is basically what travels for hours or days, sometimes even weeks, until it hits shore. And let me explain to you how a wave builds when it hits shore. This is really cool. Well, I found it really interesting. Basically, this is the water surface here. My arm is the water surface. And then you have, let's say, the reef or the bottom of the ocean. Now, the further away, let's say this is Bali. We're here on an island. This is Bali. And the surface of the ocean goes up here. So here where my finger is, this is an island, let's say Bali. And the further out into the ocean we go, the deeper the ocean gets. So the energy has a lot of space to travel, right? It has a lot of space from the water surface to all the way down to the depths of the ocean. Now, at some point, that energy starts coming into shallow waters. And what happens there is the energy doesn't get less. So it needs more space and it pushes upwards and it pushes the surface of the water upwards, which builds bulks. And the further those bulks come to the ocean, to the island, the less space there is between the water surface, the bottom of the ocean, and the energy that needs space to go somewhere. So those bulks build up. And if the height of that bulk of water, the energy that traveled through the ocean for days or weeks, gets higher than the height or the depth from the bottom floor of the ocean to the water surface, those waves break. And that's how waves are built. So the beauty and what I learned about that is actually all energy and all happenings, because a wave is always a happening. In our life, a wave that, hits shore is a happening. And so these energetic happenings, they start far, far before we notice them. Far, far before that, days, weeks, months, years, lifetimes even, before they hit shore. And one thing that I've learned to understand when I studied mindfulness and spirituality is that when we tune ourselves into these energy fields through a meditation practice, for example, we can start sensing these events, these happenings that might occur the next days, weeks, or months, right? The same way the energy hits the ocean, a long time before those waves hit shore, we can start tuning in and start sensing, oh, there's something coming. And now this brings me to the next lesson that I've learned is if you're in the ocean, if you're waiting for waves, sometimes you can start sensing or seeing from far ahead how the ocean behaves, and you can see, oh, there's a set of waves coming now. So you can start positioning yourself in the right position to surf those set of waves instead of getting them smacked onto your head, which is the same lesson in everyday life. If you start sensing what might be coming, if you start feeling, oh, there is this event that might occur. Sometimes when let's say I step onto my scooter and I drive somewhere and I kind of already feel something is off, I stop driving and I take a moment to just give it some space. Before, I never did that and I had accidents. I literally had accidents, and I haven't had a motorcycle accident in years since I really started meditating properly and tuning in to that energy that is already happening. And I'm being warned previously by it. So this is another lesson that I learned through being out in the ocean and observing how the ocean works and how I, as a surfer, have to function in the ocean. I can apply that to the life outside of the ocean. Really interesting, right? So there's many more learnings. Let me see which other ones I would like to share with you. When you paddle out into the ocean and you have the surf break, right? Imagine you have a point in the surf break where the wave breaks and you have to position yourself as the surfer to catch the wave in the exact right moment so that first of all, you're not getting the wave onto your head. And second of all, you're not too far out, so the wave doesn't even break and you're trying to paddle into the wave, but you can't catch it. So it's all about the positioning. But there's also a nice lesson in getting from the beach to that point of positioning. See, the ocean works in a very magical way. And when we go to the beach, or when I go to the beach and I take a look at the surface and I take a look at where the waves break, I keep my eye on a thing we call channels. A thing we call channels. A channel is basically a place in the ocean where the water that comes in, because the water usually comes in from the ocean, right? The energy comes in. That's why the waves break from out far in the ocean. They come towards the shore and they break. So at some point from the beach, that energy also needs to go back. If it cannot, it cannot just keep coming and coming and coming, then the water would get higher and higher and higher. So at one place, the water also needs to go back out in the ocean again. And that's what we call a channel. So as I go surfing, I'm saying we because I usually surf with my surf buddies. So as we go surfing, we always check, okay, where is the channel? Because if you're using a channel, you're going with the flow of the water to get to the point where you want to be, instead of fighting your way through the impact zone, we call it usually, which is where the waves break and the force pushes you towards the beach, where you don't want to be. When you want to surf, you got to go out into the ocean. So we scout for the channels and we search where the flow of the water pulls you outwards so you don't get those waves onto your head and you need to duck dive, we call it. You push the board underwater and you dive underneath a wave and get back up, which is hard work usually. But you find a channel where the waves don't break and the water pulls you out there. And when I realized that that's a concept that the ocean does, I also realized there is always a channel in my life, in my friendships, in my relationships, in my mental health. There's always a channel. Am I using the channel to get to a space, a place, a relationship, a friendship where I want to be, or am I forcing against the impact zone where it's pushing against me, right? One of my favorite singer-songwriters, Fia, she sings "Flow like water, my friend." And that's basically what it is. Find the channels where the flows already exist. And spiritual mindfulness practices can help us do that, can help us find these channels. So these are some learnings that I've picked up by being out there in the ocean for hours and observing how the ocean works. And I was like, oh my God, it's the same thing in real life outside of the ocean. Yeah, so speaking of which, the board is ready. I'm about to go surf with some friends, and I want to thank you for watching this video. Share in the comments what your thoughts are on this. If you're also a surfer and you've had different or same experiences, share them with me in the comments. And if you want to dive deeper into the concepts of mindfulness, spirituality, and learning to really ride the flow of life as you would be surfing a wave, I'll leave you with a link to a virtual journey down below, which will guide you to one of my offers, either free or paid offerings, depending on what it is that you need, how deep you need to go with me. Take on that free virtual journey. It's fun and playful. It's kind of like a quiz, and I'll see you on the other end. Have a beautiful day. My name is June Fuchs. I'm a certified life coach, and I'm sending you love. Mwah.